Are you at a stage in your business where you are ready to create a new brand, but you're feeling a little bit stuck, especially when it comes to actually designing your logo? Designing a logo can sometimes feel easy, but more often than not, it's a really, really challenging task because you've got to think about so many different areas to make sure you get it right. It's got to be versatile, it's got to be beautiful, it's got to be professional, it's got to be conceptual, and it's got to be all of these things. And in this episode, number 3 in a series I'm doing all about rebranding for your business, I want to share with you how you can brainstorm a logo that's actually going to work and the steps that I take as a professional designer when I do this for my clients and when I help my students do it for their own businesses. So welcome to another episode in the Seriously in Business podcast. Hi, if we haven't met before, my name is Jacqui and I am a graphic designer who loves teaching business owners how they can create their own incredible brand and graphics. And as I said, this is part 3 in a series I'm doing all about rebranding your business. If you're in a stage of your business where things are maybe feeling a little bit old and unprofessional, maybe misaligned, or you don't even actually have a proper brand to begin with, you're going to want to make sure you head back and listen to the first 2 episodes of this. The first one's going to help you get clarity on whether you actually do need a rebrand and the things to think about before you kind of start to really press go on that decision, because it costs a lot of time and money to rebrand. We don't want to get it wrong. And episode number 2 is going to be really beneficial if you're setting that foundational steps to rebranding. Like, what are the things you need to think about before you actually put cursor to Canva and actually start designing? What are the things you need to think about? Both of these episodes are so crucial to get to before you get to this section now, actually designing your logo. Now, logos are a huge part of our businesses and our brand is a huge part of our business, and it's impeccable to our success to get this right. Because as Andrew Grant says, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. And if you are having people find your business, whether it's online, whether it's on Instagram, whether it's on a flyer or a poster or business card or driving past your storefront, you never get a second chance to make that first impression. And we want to make sure that the logo that people see is connecting with them. It's connecting to them if they're the right fit for your business, making sure it's saying the right thing, whether it's communicating what you actually do and how you can serve them, as well as making sure that it actually looks professional, that they're actually like, oh, this is a business that is going to deliver a really quality product or service. I'm excited to work with them. Because if your logo is unprofessional, it's going to be saying all the wrong things. And I found a fun stat while I was doing my research for this episode that 94% of the world's population recognizes the Coca-Cola logo. Like, if you think about all the different people in the world, so even some that don't even have access to the internet, or people that are generationally not really interested in Coke, like all the kids and babies, I don't know, 94% of the world's population recognize the Coca-Cola logo. Obviously, we probably don't need our business to be that recognizable, but we do want our business logo to be recognized. We want it to something that when someone sees us and connects with us, so that I can actually lock it away in their memory bank so that when they actually need us, they can call that to mind. They can call to mind our business's name so they can go and find us. And they can also, when they see us online, they can connect with it and remember us and be like, oh yeah, that was that dishwashing brand that I wanted to buy again. I'll go grab that. Or that was that coach I wanted to work with. I'll go work with them because your logo is recognizable. And did you know that 77% of consumers buy from brands that they have the same values with, that align with their values? And our logo is able to communicate those things at a glance. We are visual people. We are creatures who judge books by their covers for good reason, so that we can actually make decisions on what's relevant and not relevant to us in our lives. I want to make sure that your logo is communicating your business's values, what you're about, and actually connecting with people so that they're excited to buy from you. So if you want a good logo for your business, where on earth do you start? Well, you start at the first 2 episodes I've already shared, so make sure you duck back and listen to those or watch those if you haven't already. Your next step is to know the 4 things that make up a good logo. The first is versatility. You need your logo to be versatile. The second thing is simplicity. Third is conceptual. And lastly, you want our brand to be unique. So versatility means that our logo is versatile, obviously. But what we need to remember is that your logo isn't just displayed in one static location for all of time. Say at the top of your website. It's not just always displayed there. It's displayed on your social media. It's displayed on a shirt. It's displayed on a letterhead. It's displayed as a little fav icon on your website and a little bar on top of the tabs. It's displayed like maybe on a billboard one day, maybe on your worksheets or your presentation slides. Your logo is displayed in so many places, and your logo needs to be versatile enough to suit all those places. That means it needs to look good really small and it needs to look good really large. It means it needs to look good in portrait, horizontal, squares, all of the things. Your logo needs to be versatile. And to do that, that brings us to our second puzzle point, which is simplicity. If your logo is wildly complex, it's going to be really hard to make versatile to look really good small and to look really good large, and to also look really good in different situations. Like sometimes you just need a white logo as a bit of a watermark. And if you have a really convoluted, colorful, like watercolors, like lots of textures happening in your logo, it's going to really fall flat because it's not going to be able to be used across a multiple of different uses. Oftentimes I see business owners making their logo far too complex. They're trying to say too much in their logo and it gets really hard to use, really convoluted, and doesn't actually end up connecting with people because it's too hard to remember. Like the Coca-Cola logo, so simple. We don't need to overcomplicate things to make them successful. Your whole visual brand can be really convoluted and have lots of different elements and colors and textures to it, but that doesn't need to belong in your actual logo. Next, we need your logo to be conceptual. We just don't want a pretty thing for the sake of being pretty. We want something that speaks conceptually to our audience. It actually connects with them, that maybe shows and shares what you're about as a business, maybe shares a bit of a connection point to your audience, something a little bit clever. And I'm going to share with you how to brainstorm that in a moment. And lastly, we want our logo to be unique. We just don't want to be using any Canva template that we find or any other random template we find on the internet. We want your logo to be unique to you. This means that not only are you unique, recognizable and special in your own way, something that no one else is going to have the same one of, so they're not going to get confused between businesses, but it also means that you are able to trademark the logo. You can actually own it as your specific thing. And it means that if your business actually grows, which is what we all want to be aiming for, we have a business logo that's actually going to grow with us rather than tie us down because it's the same as someone else or it's just an old Canva logo that doesn't have any uniqueness to it. All right, so now let's get into the steps of actually designing and brainstorming your logo. So that first step number 1, is to do your research and build a foundation so you actually know what to base your brand and logo on. These are the steps I went over in the previous episode, so make sure you head back and look at that. It involves talking to your audience. It involves doing a Pinterest mood board. It involves actually exploring your business's wow brand model. All those things I go over, so make sure you head back there. Once you've done step 1, then it's time for step number 2, which is all about creating a mind map and exploring different ideas. This is going to help you to create a really conceptual, solid, unique logo. So to do this, I recommend even just grabbing out a piece of paper. You don't have to do it on your computer. A piece of paper is totally fine. If you want to see a picture of this and you're not watching on YouTube, I'll add a picture to the blog post so you can see what I'm talking about with this mind map. But in essence, I want you to think about what you do and ideas of how we can communicate that visually. So say, for example, you are a speaking coach. Think through the things you actually do for your audience. Think about like you help them to communicate. You help them to build confidence. You might be helping women. You might help people to present on a stage. You might help people to become a leader. You might help people to really engage their audience. So those are some key things that you can use in your mind map: audience, communication, confidence, women, stage, leader, all these different things. And all these things actually have visuals that we as humans connect with these things. So like, for example, just pop what you do in the middle, like speaking coach or your business's name, and then put little lines out that go to each of those different ideas of confidence, of charisma, of whatever you do for your audience and whatever you do in your business. Make little lines out of that to just brainstorm lots of different concepts there. And once you've got those, I want to challenge you. You can either even do another level of mind mapping from those things. Like if you do communication, you could do other words that relate to communication, for example, or you can get straight to visual things that represent those ideas. So say, for example, with communication, microphone, a mouth, a speech bubble, sound waves, all these things have to do with communication. For example, confidence, you might think of like someone standing tall and proud. You might think of someone smiling. For the idea of a stage, you might think of like a spotlight on a stage. You might think of a crowd or like stage curtains or a podium. Think about the visual elements that go along with the ideas and concepts you're thinking about that represent your business. If you're really drawing blanks on this, even just searching on Google like confidence icon or confidence image, or just searching the word confidence and seeing what images pop up. You could do that in Google, you could do that in Pinterest, you could do that in even the Canva elements search. It will give you some ideas. You could even use ChatGPT to help you with this one. But start to really just mind map out what you do and the visual elements that come out of this. And that's going to really help you when you're starting to think conceptually for your logo icon, what you can do. And now at this point, I want to share with you the actual anatomy of a logo, because it's not just a picture and it's not just text. It's a little bit of combination of all of these things. A logo is usually made up of 3 different parts. You've got your word mark or your logo type. That's usually the text of your business's name. Next up, you've got your icon. This is a little visual element that goes along with your brand. And finally, you've got your tagline. Now, there is some different movement to this. Some businesses don't have an icon. Say, for example, Coca-Cola, it doesn't have an actual icon. Its logo type or its word mark is actually the logo in itself, because it's actually been made in a really beautiful way. So if you're really customizing your actual business's name in terms of designing it really cool, that could in essence just be your logo. You don't need to have an icon and text all the time. You could kind of combine them together. But I do actually find having an icon and text really great for doing that versatility. It means you can have the icon just used by itself. It means you can have the text just by itself. It means you can stack them and create different variations of the logo a lot easier than if you just have the text. But you can just have text if you want to. But do make sure, because of that uniqueness piece, you are really customizing customizing that text. Don't just whack a font on and say, that's it. You can just whack a font on if you're combining it with an icon. But if you're not using an icon, make sure you're really customizing that text to make it unique. All right, so back to our steps to designing your logo. Once you've done that mind map, it's time to start creating and sketching. I recommend before you try to dive into places like Canva, get out a literal pen and paper and explore different ideas. And they don't have to be works of art. Like for me, I've just grabbed a piece of paper here. I'll put up a picture on the screen properly, but and I'll put a picture into the blog post for those of you listening on the podcast. But in essence, try to combine some of the ideas you've brought together. For me, I combined the idea of a globe and a microphone, and those two concepts together made like a cool little icon that's totally unique to me. Similarly, I tried something with a stage light going down on the text of my business's name, or maybe something with a compass in it, like that. All of the ideas that I fleshed out in my mind map, maybe try to combine some of these things together. You could even use different parts of your business's name. Like I like drawing out my business's name a few different ways to see if I can see ways that I can evolve the icon inside the text itself. Like if a U looks a little bit like a smile and I wanted a smile in my logo, I could do something clever around that. And I could use the B and the N from business name to make some sort of icon by itself as well without using any of my other concepts. And so think through these things and try to combine them together. But it's so much easier to do this on pen and paper, even if it looks rubbish. Like I am not a drawer. And if you're looking at this picture, you'll see that I'm not a drawer. But it did help my brain to start thinking and not be limited by what I can and can't do on a computer. So that's step 3 of really sketching out some ideas. Once you've got a good idea or two, it's time to then jump onto Canva or jump on to your design program and create some graphics. Like see if you can actually make the concepts that you sketched up work in reality. But the biggest part to do here is making sure that you're not using just random Canva icons and using them, but actually drawing your icons from scratch or even drawing them on paper. I recently uploaded a tutorial on my YouTube around actually drawing an icon and bringing that into Canva as a vector file. So feel free to have a look at that if you'd like to. But in essence, making something that's totally unique to you, not just using random Canva elements because you don't own those, creating something from scratch, maybe using Canva's shapes, maybe bringing in some sketches you've done and make those together. So create a few ideas for that and then start refining them. Some of them won't work and you'll notice that. Some of them will work. Some of them might need the text to be arranged differently. Some of them might need the colors tweaked. Some of them might need things arranged in a different place. Play with that and just refine and experiment and don't be afraid to spend a little bit of time here because it's probably the most frustrating part and the longest, most time-consuming part. But if you get this right, that's going to be a huge investment into your business, its recognizability and its credibility. The next step is that once you've got a logo you're feeling pretty happy with, create some variations with it. Begin to see if it works if you want to have a long horizontal logo or a portrait logo or a square logo or the icon by itself or just the icon and some text or the icon without text or the text by itself. Like have a play and see if things work and see if things work if they're small, if they're large, if they work in black and white and different colors, and play around with that to make sure that your logo is actually going to be usable in your business rather than just a really great idea that didn't actually work in practice. And then when you've got something you think you're happy with, go to your target audience and ask them. You don't have to put it out to your whole public world, like put it out on your Instagram or something, unless you want to. You might just pick a few like key close people, maybe a past client or customer, maybe someone that you know is really valuable and they are an ideal person to work with you. Don't just get opinions from anyone. I mentioned this in the last episode, but ask them like, how does this logo feel to you? Does it connect with you? Can they read it? Does the concept make sense to them? And if they come back raving about it, then you know that you've got a great logo up your sleeve. Now, as you've seen, creating a logo isn't just a really quick process. It takes time, it takes consideration and research and going back and forward and making sure that you've got all those right variations. And a logo is versatile and simple and unique and conceptual, all of these different things. And if you're feeling like this might be something that's a little bit too tricky to undertake yourself, I would love to support you. You don't have to DIY by yourself. I've got my DIY graphic design course you're welcome to take part in, or if you're looking for a little bit more help where I work with you and we brainstorm together and we create these logos together and we experiment together and I actually help you to do this, I would love to have you in my co-creation design club. I can pretty much act as a creative director in your business and we can design your logo together. And just so you know, your logo isn't the be all and end all of your brand. It is a crucial element, but there are so many other aspects. And those are the aspects I want to chat with you in our next episode. I want to talk to you about the common mistakes people are making when they create their brand, and actually just doing a logo by itself is one of the key mistakes. So stay tuned for that episode. And if you're needing that more support, make sure you join me in the Co-Creation Design Club. See you there.